Okay, before someone says star, this video applies to you, I don't really think so, because when I left Discord, I told several people directly that I was going to leave when I was complaining about the existence of Discord, which I've been doing for like 3 years now. Um, and so they had a bit of a heads up. I know I complained really heavily to Kieran before I left, as well as No Thank You, and I believe a few other people. So those were me directly telling them. And then, a couple days later, after I had left, I released a video as an announcement to all of my friends that I had left and for why I had left. So it doesn't really count as ghosting because I gave a goodbye either directly or indirectly through video. Um, so it doesn't count to me. Ghosting is when you explicitly don't say anything. Like let's say, or you say very little. Let's say you say like a few things to someone and you don't really give an explanation for why you're leaving. You just leave, or you say a few things and you don't even imply that you're going to leave. You just leave. There's no implication, or there is some implication, and it's not really overtly stated, or you just don't say anything. What I think ghosting is about, it's about a lack of care. It's about an unwillingness to say goodbye, to leave an explanation that you're going to leave, or as to why, etc. It's not dropping any hints. Um, like ghosting is when you just leave and you have no idea why the person left. They just left you. Now, there are reasons why sometimes people need to leave without saying anything. Legal reasons, someone needs to change their identity, but those are in the strong minority. Situations like that don't typically happen. And so those people can be let off the hook, I think. But in general, that doesn't happen. So if someone gives no explanation for why they left, they just leave, and they don't even really properly say goodbye, that's ghosting. Even just saying goodbye, like it kind of is ghosting because you're not leaving an explanation. Um, and if someone ghosts you, they were never truly your friend. Because what is a friend if not someone you can rely on? Someone you can give your trust to? Someone who you expect to be there for you? It's not really a very friendly thing to do if this person who you supposedly cared about during all this time, is no longer worth your time and you just leave them. I don't think that's a very friendly thing to do because at the end of the day, you're leaving the person who cared a lot about you, who you apparently didn't care very much about, high and dry. They're left to question, why did this person I care about leave me? I'm so sad. I'm so sad. Why did this person I cared about, why did they go away? And now they have to let all of those questions eat at the back of their neck. They have to let the lingering insecurities of those questions, or the lingering insecurities that those questions bring, ache at the back of their neck. Was it my fault? Was it this? Was it that? People don't deserve that because it psychologically tortures them having to think about those things over and over and over again because they have no idea what happened. And I think it's things like that that are really tragic because they turn people into literal simps. People become simps after they've been ghosted because now they have to again deal with this psychological torture of thinking what was the reason they did that. They have they're not told, so like they're just thinking about this over and over and over again and getting more sad. And when you get that sad, you will do pathetic things because if you're ghosted, the person who ghosted you is not worth your time by any means because they're probably going to do it again, for one, because they didn't care enough about you in the first place to not do it. Um, or if they're not probably going to do it again, that's just a sign of bad character. Ghosting someone who you're supposed to care about, or who you said you cared about, is a sign of bad character. And so, like, it's incredibly pathetic to have these feelings turn into actions where you're sitting there being like, "Oh, please come back. I just want to be your friend," etc. Um, because because you're kowtowing or kowtowing to a person who did not care, who allowed you to create those feelings in the first place, or have those feelings come into being. Um, but it's psychologically, it's just really sad. Like, looking at the results of ghosting, seeing what ghosting is, it's not something friends should do. But I think there's two different responses to it. There's the simp response of, just being so hurt by the thing that they have to be aware that you're going to end up in those kind of thought loops. Being so hurt by the thing that you end up making yourself look pathetic by desperately trying to get the attention and the affirmation of the person who just treated you like shit, a person who was supposedly trying to care for you this whole time, or be a friend to you this whole time, completely broke that code, and it ended up betraying you. It doesn't look good to be trying to get the affirmation of someone who betrayed you. It shows that you don't have any self-respect, that you just hate yourself, and no one likes that. No one finds that to be an attractive quality in friendship or anything else, really. It just makes you look like a simp. And then the other response is just anger, or being mad at the person. And then there's a third way between those two extreme responses, which is to have self-respect and just say fuck it. There's going to be more people in the future, and if this person wants to come back and talk to me, well, so be it. Free association being what it is, it's a free country, let's chat. But I'm going to hold this over you, and I'm going to tell you that this was wrong what you did, and it negatively affected me. And I'm not going to come back so easily after you did that. That's the self-respect angle. Or you can just choose not to talk to them, which is, I think, more in line with what the angry person would do. But I think, when you're taking a neutral, self-respecting angle, you're open to the idea of talking to the person again. But you're not, just pathetically saying, please come back, etc. You're not really thinking about it. You're thinking, well, clearly, if this person who I supposedly cared about, or who supposedly cared about me, was willing to do these horrible things, I guess they weren't the person who I thought they were. And I guess me, as a self-respecting individual, have to find somebody else, because there's plenty of people out there to be friends with. That's the self-respecting angle. That's the optimistic angle. That's the kind of mindset that people find attractive, because you're not constantly at the whim of other people. And I think that's a very important lesson it was a very important lesson for me to learn, because I've had really bad friends in the past who I tried to make amends with, just like desperately. I tried to do every single thing I could to make amends with them after I was treated like shit. And in those moments, I was a simp. I was 100% a simp. And I think, everyone is a simp at some point in their life. Everyone becomes pathetic at some point in their life. But it has to be used as a lesson. It has to be something that we learn from, to say, next time around, I will respect myself enough to not let these feelings this person has made me feel control me. To realize that if this person was willing to ghost me, then they were never truly the person who I thought they were. Because someone who reciprocally cared about me, someone who cared about me as much as I cared about them, or at all, just at all, would not ghost. They would give an explanation for why they left. They would say something. And so they were never truly the person who you thought they were, and therefore they were never truly your friend in that instance. If someone ghosts you, they were never truly your friend, because friends care about each other. Friends talk to each other. They have communication. And that means something. It's very important. Or else, again, when you leave someone high and dry, they're just left with the psychological torture of what was never said or what could have been said. And that's a horrible thing to do to someone. And even if someone doesn't have that reaction, even if, someone potentially does react in the self-respecting way that I talked about, of just saying, well, they were bad and bad people aren't worth my time to move on to the next person, that's a good reaction to have, healthy. But, you can't ghost somebody with the expectation that they're going to react that way. You have to always be assuming, like, I don't know the way this person is going to react. It's basic etiquette to, it's basic etiquette to just tell someone why you're leaving, because there's the potential for a very negative response. Even in the self-respecting reaction that I was talking about, it's not like they aren't going to feel bad on some level. And so the fact that those bad feelings could exist, and you don't know what reaction you're going to get, it's important to at least explain why, or to say something. Because you're not in other people's heads. You never truly know what implications your actions are going to have. And so in order to act with empathy towards other people, you have to be willing to have conversations. And I think people get so narcissistically obsessed with how they feel in the moment that it's more comfortable for them to do whatever maximizes the most pleasure at the expense of other people. And that, I think, is wrong, because you're not thinking about how those people feel. And when you start thinking about how those people feel, you should probably feel at least a little bit bad. Because when all of it's explained the way I'm explaining it right now, it's kind of hard not to feel bad if you're doing something like that. At least for me, and for a lot of people. So always be trying to have those explanations in your head if you're friends with someone and you think about ghosting them. Because you may not realize it in the moment, the implications your actions have, or you just don't care. Most people who ghost just don't care. Like, I think most of them are not so autistic that they wouldn't understand these things. Like, most people understand, they just don't care. So when I make this point, I'm really just talking to like the one autistic guy watching this video who doesn't understand this. But you have to weigh the implications of all of your actions on other people. How will this hurt them? How will this positively affect them? What does this mean, what I'm doing? If you don't do that, then no one's going to treat you that way. Like, I was always told as a kid, treat other people the way you would like to be treated. Well, on a very basic level, I would like to be treated with empathy. I would like people to understand what I'm going through, and to not say or do negative things towards me with the assumption that those things aren't going to hurt, or to just say or do things that are commonly thought of as triggering or bad, with the assumption that those things aren't going to hurt, You have to always be weighing your actions and trying not to hurt people, because you never truly know what's going on in someone else's head. You never truly know what's going to hurt them. Um, of course, I'm not saying take this to a ridiculous like SJW kind of degree, but I do think it's important to try and be a kind person to other people. Um, because when you do that, people oftentimes will do the same thing to you in return. That's really all I want. Like my life would be so much easier. I would be so much less angry if people just had more empathy and didn't intentionally try to be dicks to me for no reason, or didn't be a dick and not realize it after I explained it to them why they bothered me. Arrogance is a really huge problem. And I think, in large part, ghosting is either due to that kind of narcissistic hedonism I was talking about, or just due to arrogance, you know? And none of those are qualities you're going to want in a long term friend who you can trust. Perhaps an acquaintance, sure, just someone who you talk to every now and again, but if that person ghosts you, you're not really going to be upset about it, so it doesn't really count in the context of this conversation. Yeah, basically, if someone ghosts you, they were never your friend, and that's a very important life lesson to learn, or you're going to get hurt a bunch of times by people who were never worth your time.